I give you 5 things that are reported in several publications of the OECD and academic scholars and others. So this is not just my idea, but this is something that people do not find in the high-performing education systems. One of them that you cannot find in any of these countries, Canada, Japan, South Korea, Finland, is that the government would be pushing alternative ways to organize schooling through charter schools or free schools or privatized education. None of these high-performing education systems has this policy in place. Okay? They all have private schools, they all have choice, but they all have it under control. And it's not as a kind of a front line of the government's education policy. Okay? Second one is that none of these countries have a performance-based pay for teachers or what I call fast-tracked pathways to become a teacher, like Teach for America or Teach for Australia, where you study 5 or 6 weeks and become a teacher. None of these high-performing systems have anything like this. All of them, they have a system like Finland, where you have one way to become a teacher, and you have to be really good if you want to do that. Okay? Third one is that none of these countries have prescription or standardization as a main idea to steer what teachers are teaching and students are learning in the classroom. They are having less and less a kind of a frequent standardized testing. Like if you look at the highest performing English-speaking education system in the world is the province of Alberta. And Alberta is a good example here, where they are doing away some of the old national standardized assessments in order to give more room for teachers to do what they think is the best thing to do. The same thing in South Korea, same thing in Japan, same thing in Finland. That we have standardized testing and we are using it, but we are not relying on standardization and testing as the main driver in the policy. Fourth, none of these countries have a punitive accountability measures to sanction failing teachers or failing schools. None of them. This is not to say that we wouldn't have failing teachers or failing schools. We may have schools and teachers who need more help and support than others, but we are not closing them down. We are not firing principals or firing teachers because of these things. We are providing help and support and advice for them to do better. So you cannot find any of these things in any of the high-performing systems. And finally, in any of these high-performing systems, you don't find confrontation with teachers or teacher unions and blaming and shaming them from things that are beyond their control. All of these countries have very strong unions. Finland has a very strong teacher union. Almost everybody, teachers and principals, are members of the union. But this union is working together with the government, not against, or the government is working together with the union and not against it. Very important findings, right? So what would be the lessons then? And now I'm coming to the end of my thing. But this is an interesting thing that, you know, one of my conclusions, not only from here, but almost everywhere, a little bit also including Finland, is that we are trying to do the wrong thing just a little bit righter. Yeah? And you recognize this fellow. Yeah, and he was one of the education reformers, because he said something like this, that you can always count on Americans to do the right thing after they have tried everything else. And the United States really has been a kind of a powerful inspiration for the global educational reform movement and many other things. But I think one of my recommendations for many countries, including here, is that it's good to look at what the United States and England and Australia are doing, but it's also useful to look beyond and go to the countries where they don't speak English, where they speak much more strange languages than that, because there may be interesting ideas there. Now, my 5 concluding remarks are the following, and this is something that I would like to leave with you, and hope that you can use this for thinking. And these are lessons from Finland. The first one is that we need more collaboration and less competition everywhere. I think education at all levels is a business of doing things together rather than against one another. And more you think about this, more you also understand that all these beautiful things of creativity and innovation and social skills and building social capital only become doable when we have more cooperation and less competition. This is not to say that competition should not be there or it's a bad thing. I'm just thinking about the schools now. We need more trust-based responsibility and less test-based accountability. Again, accountability is important, it has to be there. But so is responsibility and trust. And more stronger accountability you have in your system, less responsibility there will be. Okay? So let's try to strengthen trust and responsibility. We need more professionalism. We need to have more professionals and not less in our schools, and we need less bureaucracy. I think data, again, is important. We need to have it. But if principals and teachers are spending increasing amount of their work filling in data sheets, that's not what will improve education in the end of the day. And fourth one is that we need more equity and less marketization. And this marketization really refers to parental choice. I think choice is important, and I'm not saying that there should not be choice for parents, but it has to be somehow managed as part of the education system. So the discourse should not be whether private schools are good or bad or whether we need them or not. The question should be that how can we use the non-government school system to enhance equity and education? And we cannot do it by leaving everything open to the markets. That's not how it works. And finally, I think we need more evidence-based policies and less social experimentation with our children. And this is what is unfortunately happening in many countries where by social experiments, I mean doing things that have never worked anywhere else and hoping and believing that they will bring a difference in our school system. And you are not alone with this. There are many others who are doing exactly the same. And when people refer to OECD evidence, they often cherry-pick the evidence that they want to have and ignore the rest. I think OECD has a very rich, is probably the most important source of evidence that we can have, but we have to use it comprehensively.